Pastor Miguel Silva adjusted his crisp white collar as he led the small gospel choir onto the sun-baked marble terrace outside Café Laurent, one of Jardin's most exclusive brunch spots. The midday heat shimmered on the polished stone, blending with the cafe's clinking crystal and the low hum of imported jazz leaking from its open doors. In their matching black slacks and pristine white shirts, Miguel and his 7 singers formed a semicircle beneath a row of potted orchids, their songbooks clasped in nervous hands. Miguel raised his hand in benediction, and, on his nod, the choir began the opening strains of Amazing Grace. Their voices, rich, hopeful, and harmonized, soared into the afternoon air, each note a plea and each phrase a promise of redemption. Bystanders paused mid-sip of their cappuccinos. A waiter wiped the condensation from a wineglass to watch. For a moment, the music painted the terrace in warmth. But as the choir moved into the soaring bridge, laughter rippled from a cluster of well-dressed patrons at the cafe's largest table. A sharply dressed woman in oversized sunglasses covered her mouth with one gloved hand and snickered. Her companion, a sharply coiffed socialite, mocked the choir's hand gestures, waving a manicured finger as though conducting his own imaginary orchestra. A pair of teenagers at a nearby table began filming with their smartphones, their whispered jeers amplified by the choir's echo. Miguel's soprano lead, Ana Batista, faltered on the final note. The lyric, redeemed, saved by grace, hung awkwardly between blessing and embarrassment. Miguel lowered his hand, his face tightening with hurt. He offered a gentle smile, but the cafe's polished facade suddenly felt indifferent, even hostile. The trumpet fanfare from inside the cafe resumed, drowning out the choir's final chord. Quietly, Miguel closed his music folder and turned to his singers. Custodia, his alto, bit her lip to hold back tears. The baritone, Paolo, slumped a shoulder as he tucked his songbook under his arm. The youngest member, 12-year-old Rafaela, stared at the mocking group with wide, hurt eyes. Miguel gathered them in a tight circle, his voice low but firm. "Let's go." They retreated down the terraced steps, their white shirts fading into the dappled shade of jacaranda trees lining Rua Haddock Lobo. As the cafe's laughter and clinking glasses receded behind them, Miguel's heart pounded, not with the rhythm of faith, but with the sting of exclusion. Yet with each measured step away from Jardin's marble elegance, he resolved that this mockery would not silence his choir's song. It would only make their next anthem louder. That evening, as gold light from the setting sun danced across Vila, Madalena's riot of street art, Pastor Miguel Silva guided his choir through a narrow alley toward the community center on Rua Harmonia. The single-story building, its cinder-block walls painted in bright turquoises and fuchsias, housed folding metal chairs, mismatched hymnals, and a battered upright piano that had once belonged to a neighboring school. As pedestrians wove past open-air bars and pastry carts, Miguel unlocked the center's heavy steel door and ushered his singers inside. The air was thick with the scent of feijoada cooking in a corner cauldron, lent by Dona Lourdes, the community's matriarch. Choir members discarded their crisp white shirts for more comfortable t-shirts as Miguel gathered them around a scuffed wooden table. "They mocked us today," he began, voice gentle but resolute. "But in their echo, we will find our true voice." His eyes met Anna's, Rafaela's, Custodia's, each nodding, though uncertainty flickered in their brows. Miguel opened a battered notebook and flipped to a blank page. He pressed pen to paper. Somos voz, somos fe. We are voice, we are faith. He read the words aloud, the syllables tumbling in the warm dusk air. Then he tapped the table in a steady rhythm. Boom-ts, boom-ts, the heartbeat of a new hymn. At his cue, percussionist João lifted a tambourine and joined in, his stick striking the drum's taut skin with crisp precision. Soon, cymbals of reponique and the snap of palmers, hand claps, layered over the beat, filling the room with kinetic energy. Miguel began to sing a tentative melody, his tenor voice weaving between the drums. Na noite escura, nós brilhamos. Em cada verso, nós proclamamos. He paused, letting the lines hang. Custodia leaned forward, adding a lower harmony. Anna experimented with a soprano flourish. Rafaela, her eyes wide, tried a counter melody that danced around Miguel's line. Miguel recorded each iteration on his battered smartphone, then replayed it. The choir listened, heads cocked, before bursting into laughter at a particularly off-key run that gave way to a perfected harmony on the second take. For hours, they refined the chorus and verses, crafting lyrics that spoke of resilience, mesmo calados, nossa canção soa, and unity, de norte a sul, somos só tom. They practiced call and response. Miguel's voice rang out, "Somos vós," and the choir thundered back, "Somos fé," until the repetition burned into their bones. Outside, the last market stalls closed. The smell of churros lingered in the balmy air. When midnight neared, they gathered for a final run-through under the center's flickering fluorescent lights. The full anthem, percussion, harmonies, and lyrics soared through the open windows, drifting into the narrow streets of Villa Madalena. As the last note faded, Miguel pressed stop on his phone's recorder and looked at his choir with quiet pride. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we share this with all of São Paulo." They left the center, carrying their makeshift drums and songbooks, stepping into the cool night with hearts alight. In that moment, amid murals of warriors and the distant hum of samba, Miguel knew their anthem had taken root. A gospel reborn in the favelas, destined to echo far beyond Jardin's marble terraces. Sprosit ChatGPT. Just before dawn, Pastor Miguel Silva strapped a small Bluetooth speaker to a lamppost at the heart of Avenida Paulista's median strip. The empty boulevard stretched before him, flanked by glass towers still darkened from the night. In the soft pre-dawn light, he and his 7 choir members assembled beneath the towering birch trees. Miguel holding his battered notebook, Anna cradling her soprano score, Custodia tightening the straps on her tambourine. Miguel tapped his phone, and the speaker crackled to life with the anthem's opening drumbeat. A steady boom-ts, boom-ts that echoed off sleek marble facades. A few stray joggers paused, curious. With a nod, Miguel raised his arms and launched into the first verse, his tenor clear and unwavering. Na noite escura nós brilhamos, em cada verso nós proclamamos. Anna's soprano entered on cue, a shimmering counterpoint that danced around Miguel's melody. Custodia and Paolo moved to the speaker's side, their tambourine and reponique adding crisp, syncopated accents. As they sang the call and response chorus, Miguel's Somos Vós, met by the choir's Somos Fé, the first wave of spectators gathered. Early commuter taxi drivers, bleary-eyed cafe baristas setting out chairs, and a street sweeper who leaned on his broom to listen. By the second chorus, Miguel's nephew Felipe, stationed 2 blocks away, sent the first video clip to his WhatsApp group, captioned, "Avenida Paulista wakes up to a new hymnal." Within minutes, the clip ricocheted through social media. A line formed along the median. Curious onlookers craned over the low hedge, smartphones raised. Street stall vendors paused their morning setup, their faces lighting with recognition and excitement. Miguel stepped off the pavement onto the road, leading his choir in a circular formation around one of the art museum's modernist fountains. Cars screeched to a halt. Drivers rolled down windows, entranced. A bus operator opened the doors so passengers could spill onto the sidewalk, joining hands and swaying. The anthem's chorus, Somos Vós, Somos Fé, rang out, hundreds of them now singing in unison. A professional vlogger sidled up to Miguel, her camera rolling. "Pastor Silva," she breathed, "your song, how did it unite so many before the city even woke?" Miguel smiled, voice gentle. "This is the song of every hopeful heart. When we call, they answer. When faith leads, the city follows." Above, office lights snapped on in high-rise windows as employees peeked out to see the spontaneous gospel flash mob transforming their commute. The anthem's rhythm pulsed through the avenue's heart like an electric current, and Miguel felt its energy surge through his choir. When they reached the final verse, he lowered his arms and let the last notes drift into the morning air. By the time Paulista's cafes opened their doors, Fast Somos Vós was already trending nationally. News vans rolled in, and a radio presenter on Radio Cultura interrupted programming to play the raw recording, his voice trembling with emotion as he introduced São Paulo's New Awakening chant. Miguel and his choir, still gathered on the median, exchanged awed smiles. They had not merely sung a song, they had ignited a city's spirit, proving that in the quiet hours before sunrise, a single anthem could unite a metropolis in faith and voice. By late afternoon, Avenida Paulista had become a river of motion. Pedestrians, buses, and cars ebbing and flowing along its broad lanes. Miguel's phone buzzed with a final confirmation. Over 500 volunteers had signed up to join the choir's evening flash mob, drawn by the anthem's morning echo. He steeled himself, smoothing his crisp white shirt as dusk's first hues painted the glass towers in rose and gold. At 6 p.m., the choir and volunteers, dressed in coordinated white t-shirts emblazoned with Somos Voz, Somos Fe, assembled near the MASP Museum's iconic red pillars. Drummers from the favelas of Cantagalo and Paraisópolis formed a percussion wall, their surdos and reponiques thumping a heartbeat beneath the city's pulse. A brigade of sound technicians set up portable speakers on rolling carts, each carefully angled to carry Miguel's voice across the wide boulevard. Miguel climbed onto a low platform fashioned from stacked pallets, his notebook in hand. He raised an arm, and the drummers launched into the anthem's signature boom-ts. At his cue, Anna opened with her crystalline soprano, and the choir's harmonies wove seamlessly into the percussive thread. Then Miguel's tenor rang out. Na noite escura, nós brilhamos. As the first chorus swelled, the volunteers, office workers in blazers, students in backpacks, street vendors wiping their hands, joined in the call and response. Somos Voz, Somos Fe. Their collective voices roared down Paulista like a wave, rolling past shuttered storefronts and open cafes alike. Traffic halted at the intersections as curious drivers climbed from cars, their radios tuned to live streams of the flash mob. A busload of tourists erupted into applause. A group of skateboarders abandoned their boards to sing along. Even a luxury tram paused, its passengers craning out windows to catch the spectacle below. Miguel raised his arms higher, directing the choir through the bridge. A rollicking syncopation that blended gospel fervor with samba swing. The drums doubled in intensity, and the avenue's streetlights flickered on in response, as though each lamppost had been pre-programmed to pulse with the song's rhythm. The anthem's final crescendo, Somos Voz, Somos Fe, Unidos en Canção, erupted from a chorus of over 600 voices, echoing off the glass facades and reverberating into the evening sky. As the last note faded, a profound hush blanketed Paulista for a heartbeat. Then the crowd broke into thunderous, sustained applause that rippled like a standing ovation at a packed theatre. Miguel descended the platform, tears glinting in his eyes, and embraced each volunteer in turn. The flash mob had not just united a choir and its chorus, it had united an entire city in song, proving that when São Paulo raises its voice as one, no wall, physical or social, can contain its harmony. As sunrise crept over São Paulo's skyline, the morning after the flash mob, the city awoke to headlines that read like testament to Miguel's vision. Paulista United in Gospel declared Folha de São Paulo across its front page, beneath a photograph of hundreds of singers in white, arms raised in unison before the MASP pillars. On Radio Bandeirantes, the station's hosts replayed the anthem's powerful chorus, Somos Voz, Somos Fe, Unidos en Canção, and urged listeners to share their own experiences singing along the boulevard. By 9:00 a.m., the Avenida Paulista metro station's turnstiles were plastered with flyers promoting an open-air concert in Ibirapuera Park later that afternoon, headlined by Pastor Miguel Silva and his gospel choir. Local cafes offered Somos Voz lattes sprinkled with cinnamon, the baristas painting the anthem's title in frothy milk on each cup. Social media feeds overflowed with tagged selfies and videos. Office-bound commuters belting the chorus into their car commutes. University students filming impromptu campus sing-along rehearsals. Even a group of elderly pensioners in Vila Mariana gathered at a street corner, their voices surprisingly strong. At midday, São Paulo's municipal government issued a formal proclamation. In recognition of Pastor Miguel Silva's contribution to civic unity and cultural expression, March 15th shall henceforth be celebrated as Somos Voz Day across the city, marked by community choirs and public performances. The proclamation was read live on the steps of City Hall by the mayor's press secretary. while Miguel, dressed in his pastor's suit, stood at attention alongside civic leaders and representatives of São Paulo's leading cultural organizations. That evening, as promised, hundreds of choir members and volunteers converged on Ibirapuera Park's open-air pavilion. The crowd swelled to thousands. Families on picnic blankets, food truck patrons pausing mid-bite, and early arriving concert-goers in anticipation of the anthem's encore. Miguel took the stage beneath the towering black columns, the city's setting sun casting long shadows over the lake's mirrored surface. He began with a prayer, thanking the city for its embrace of a melody born from mockery and transformed into unity. Then, with a nod to his choir, he launched into the anthem's opening verse. The thousand-strong audience joined in, voices rising like a single instrument, each "Somos Voz" and "Somos Fe" echoing through the treetops. As the final refrain faded into the twilight, spotlights illuminated a massive banner unfurled behind the stage. São Paulo, our voice, our faith. The applause that followed was deafening, sustained long enough to shake loose the evening's humidity and carry the anthem's spirit across every neighborhood. That night, in homes across the city, the anthem played softly on radios as families tucked in children. The refrain's promise: united in song, we cannot be divided, lingering like a benediction over São Paulo's sleeping streets. In the weeks that followed, choirs sprouted in schools, hospitals, and workplaces, ensuring that Miguel Silva's anthem continued to unite hearts and voices each time its notes rose in song. Sprosit ChatGPT. That evening, as the sky turned a bruised purple over Avenida Paulista, Pastor Miguel Silva's phone buzzed with one final confirmation. Over 800 volunteers had signed up to join the choir's grand flash mob. At 7 p.m. sharp, Miguel and his core singers, dressed in simple white tees printed with "Somos Voz, Somos Fe," filed into the broad median strip beneath the MASP's red pillars. Around them, anonymous office workers traded in their blazers for the same tees. Students stuffed their backpacks with tambourines and shakers. Street vendors paused their stands, draping tables with spare microphones and cables. Miguel climbed onto a makeshift stage of stacked wooden pallets as discreet sound engineers rolled in two powerful speakers, one at each end of the boulevard. He raised his arms, and immediately the drums began. A heartbeat boom-ts, boom-ts that reverberated against the sleek glass facades. Hundreds of hands slapped tambourines, while repiniques and surdos joined to create a surging wave of percussion. At Miguel's nod, soprano Anna's clear voice punctured the opening beat with the first line of the anthem. Na noite escura, nós brilhamos. The volunteers answered in kind, their collective chorus swelling as the melody wove through the urban canyon. Miguel led the call and response chorus, "Somos Voz, Somos Fe," and the voices rippled down Paulista like a tidal surge. Traffic ground to a halt at the intersections. Drivers poured from cars, cell phones aloft, capturing the unprecedented spectacle. As the anthem's bridge approached, a syncopated samba lift that replaced gospel's stately march, the crowd shifted, hips swaying, and even a lone bicyclist dismounted to join the rhythm. Miguel paced the stage, his voice rising above the throng, guiding the tempo with practiced precision. When the chorus returned for the final time, "Unidos en canção," the entire boulevard sang as one. Office lights blinked in time. Shop windows reflected thousands of uplifted faces, and the MASP's red pillars glowed against the chant. For a suspended moment, São Paulo stood still, united by song. Then a roar of applause, spontaneous, unrestrained, erupted from the crowd. Miguel stepped down into the sea of volunteers, embracing Anna, Custodia, and Paulo as tears glimmered in his eyes. The flash mob finale had not only amplified their anthem, it had transformed a single melody into the city's collective heartbeat. Under the glow of street lamps and the lingering echo of "Somos Voz, Somos Fe," São Paulo discovered its true harmony, proof that when voices join in faith, no barrier can withstand their song. By dawn's first light, word of Avenida Paulista's thunderous chorus had spread across Brazil and beyond. Newspapers hailed São Paulo's citywide choir, and TV networks replayed the flash mob's climax, the final "Somos Voz, Somos Fe, Unidos em Canção," echoing through speakers in homes from Salvador to Porto Alegre. That morning, Mayor Almeida issued a proclamation on the steps of City Hall. Effective immediately, every March 15th shall be celebrated as Somos Voz Day, a tribute to the power of unity through song. Miguel Silva stood alongside the mayor, choir, members arrayed behind him, as the official seal was stamped on the decree. The proclamation called for the formation of Coral Paulista, a permanent civic choir under Miguel's direction, open to any citizen willing to raise their voice in harmony. By midday, the first sign-ups flooded in. Bankers trading briefcases for sheet music, street artists eager to join with their own percussion, and school children clutching homemade tambourines. The newly formed choir rehearsed once a week at the Municipal Theatre, where Miguel, now honoured as Composer Laureate of São Paulo, mentored them in arranging the anthem and exploring new harmonies drawn from samba, forró, and indigenous chants. That afternoon on national radio, Somos Voz climbed to the top of the Brazilian music charts as stations across the country played both the original street recording and a polished studio version Miguel and his choir had produced in a hastily booked recording session. Journalists analysed its blend of gospel fervour and Afro-Brazilian rhythm, lauding it as the hymn of a nation rediscovering its communal heartbeat. In the months that followed, other cities adopted the model. Rio de Janeiro's Voices of the Carioca sang beneath Sugarloaf Mountain. Salvador's Axé do Canto blended the anthem with Bahian drumming. Brasília's Coral do Planalto performed it for visiting dignitaries on the Esplanade of Ministries. Everywhere, the refrain, Somos Voz, Somos Fé, became a universal call to unity. A year later, Miguel returned to Avenida Paulista for the first official Somos Voz Day celebration. Beneath a cloudless sky, thousands of choir members filled the median strip from the Masp pillars to the Trianon Park entrance. As Miguel raised his hands, a hush fell over the crowd. Then, in a single, breathtaking moment, the city sang together. Somos Voz, Somos Fé, unidos en canção. Above them, drones projected the lyrics in golden light across skyscrapers, and fireworks bloomed in the distance, each burst synchronized to the anthem's drumbeat. In that soaring finale, Miguel watched São Paulo's skyline pulse with every note, a living testament that when a city's voices unite in faith, its song can transcend mockery, forge community, and echo through history.